Hi everyone, my name is Jen and welcome to the Book Refuge and welcome to my December TBR slash the TBR for the Romance Takeover Readathon. I am so excited to be doing this video, so much so that I just had my wisdom teeth out yesterday and I'm feeling a lot better than I thought I would, and I'm just so excited to film this video. So I figured I'd go ahead and do it today, and who cares, like I'll take a break after it, but I was really excited to film it. So if you haven't heard about it already, I'll go ahead and link the announcement video up in the cards, whichever side it's at. But me and some of my romance pals, we are going to be doing a readathon devoted to romance. This is the second time that we're doing this readathon, only this time I wanted to make it even more expansive. You get to build your own TBR. There are basically, you can choose from any of the prompts, which all of this stuff is saved on my Instagram, as well as I'll link the documents down below again. But there is a total of 21 prompts, and there is a 9x9 board that you can make it however you want. In fact, you could even make it bigger than you want. You could do a 4x4. We don't have like a pre-made thing for that, but you can do that yourself if you want to, because this is all like an at your own pace readathon. And the reason that we're kind of scheduling this one the last month of the year, it's going to be the first like 2 weeks of December, is so that you could use this as an opportunity to get through some books that have been on your TBR. I'm using it for rereading all of my favorites, which I'll get into in a minute. But however you want to use this, you can do as much or as little as you want to. You could go for just one line of bingo. You could go for blackout. You could build the board so that you only have to read 2 or 3 books to cover anything. There is social media challenges. If you want to fill the board with basically just social media challenges, you could do that too. You really can do however you want, and you're going to be seeing a lot of the hosts, which I will have linked down below. Again, I talk about all that in the announcement video, who's hosting and everything. We have a lot of books to get through, so I don't want to re-go over all the details of the readathon, because this also is going to be my TBR for the month. So first, what we're going to do is I'm going to go over the books that go with the prompts that I'm trying to do. I just posted, I'll post it again when we get closer, but the way that I decided to do this, I'll go ahead and show you. I don't have a printer at home, so I always draw my own boards, which always look a little ratchet. But what I did is I actually made this double board. So this is 9 squares, but then I cut each square in half. So I actually have 18 prompts on this, and then the leftover prompts I just have written down here. I'm thinking that I will be able to do 19 out of the 21. One of them I can't do is read a library book. I don't use the library. I know it's one of my faults, but I don't use the library, as well as the one around here has really complicated rules for pickup and everything right now. So I won't be doing that. And then I also won't be doing read a book outside your comfort zone for 2 reasons. One, I'm planning to use this readathon primarily for rereading my favorites from the year. So all of these books are in my comfort zone. And number 2, again, like something that would be outside my comfort zone would be a non-romance, and I'm planning to read romance for this entire thing. So those are the 2 that I'm not planning to get to, but they are available to you to build your board. And maybe you don't read a lot of dark romance. You want to try one of those, or you want to try one that one of the hosts is suggesting, and go from there. So yeah, that is what my board looks like. But the way I broke that down on my Instagram is I made board 1 and board 2. And so my plan is to black out both of these boards, and that's the same as where I have it split into 18 right here. So you do not have to do that as much as me. That's the point. I'm using this to its maximum effect because I also helped create this, so I want to build the board the way that I get to do as much as I want to. And those of you who've been around a while, you also know that I can read a lot of romance. But I do think that I fit all 18 of those prompts to about 9 books to fit 18 prompts. And then I also have other books that I need to read. So I'll start with the readathon stuff if you're here for Rex for that. Although a lot of these are going to be personal to me, just for what I'm trying to do. And then something else I want to say too, pretty much for every prompt that is on here, I already have a video for them, if you're looking for recommendations. So if you want to use one of those for a recommendation for yours, because one of the prompts is to read a book recommended by a host. You could either do that by reading one of mine along with me as a recommendation, or you could go to my recommendations playlist, will be linked at the end of this video, and go through there and pick a book up there that you want to read as that prompt for you. So going through the prompts on my board, we will go ahead and go through that. I have things written in a couple places. So looking at my board, ones that I already don't have to have a book for is I'm going to attend a live reading sprint. Info about that will be linked down below. Post a TBR, that will be this video. Post to Insta, I definitely will be doing that. So then read a 5-star prediction book. That is going to be my entire TBR, because these are all books that I have already given a 5-star to. But if it's one that's going to be a prediction, I'm going to go with Deadly Dreams by KJ Sutton, which will be one of the only new to me books that I'm going to be reading, because that is also going to cover my Read a Recent Release. So that book is going to cover those two. Then read a book recommended by a host. I am one of the hosts. I guess I could get complex with that, but I'm going to see if any of mine match with any of my friends, which they do. Surprise, surprise, because I'm also, we'll get to that. But I know for a fact that a lot of my favorites have also been recommended by the host, so I'm kind of just going with that for one. Read after midnight. That'll be easy. I do that all the time. And then read a book that's been on your TBR for 6 months or more. So for this one, I'm planning to do Captive in the Dark. I think this is by KJ Roberts. I can't remember the last name, but I'll put it up here. I've had this one in my Kindle forever. And I also have the audiobook for it. And obviously this one is a captor-captive romance. I've heard whenever there's a captor-captive request video, this one is always up on there. So I definitely plan to get to that one because it's been on there forever. So then buddy read a book. So the one I have for this is actually for my book club that I have with Crystal over at Crystal's Bookish Life. We are reading My Fake Rake for our book club. The book club is actually going to be happening during this readathon. So if you want to buddy read this book with us, we are actually going to have the author, Zoe Archer, is going to be on our live show. So the first half, we'll discuss our questions like we did for All Scott and Bothered. And then for the second half, she's actually going to join us, and we're going to ask her some questions about her writing process and writing historical romance and things like that in general. She also just had, I don't know if it was her script or a book that she'd written, but just made into a Hallmark movie or Netflix movie. So that's really exciting. But this book is actually, it's supposed to have a cinnamon roll hero. And this woman, Grace, she's having her friend Sebastian, pretend to be a rake and date her, so that she appeals to the ton, which I love fake dating. I love rakes. For December, I wanted us to read a book with rake in the title, and then everything just kind of snowballed into Zoe Archer is going to come. So you definitely want to read this book with us if you want to hear about her. This also works for Read a Historical Romance. I have a lot of historicals on here, but I figured I would just say that this one works for that too. It's so pretty as well. Follow all the hosts. I definitely already do that. Find 2 new booktubers below 1,000 subs. I definitely plan to do that as well. And then reread a favorite book. This is my entire TBR, but the book I'm picking for that one specifically is Again the Magic. I'm rereading Again the Magic. I'm rereading most of these, like I said. Read a cinnamon roll hero. For that, I'm planning my reread of Transcendence by Shay Savage. This is actually a caveman romance. Oh my gosh, I just love this book when I'm going to say that so many times, but I just loved this book when I first read it back in August, I think I read it. This is about a woman who falls back in time, but it's actually told from the point of view of the caveman who rescues her and then becomes her mate basically. But you as the reader realize that she's obviously come from the future, but we don't know how or why. And it was just one of the most touching, beautiful books. It's so good, but it definitely has a cinnamon roll hero because Ed is amazing. Read a bad boy romance. For this, I'm planning to reread A Worthy Opponent by Katie Robert. This is a Hook and Tinkerbell retelling. It's also BDSM. I just love this series. This is book 3 in the Wicked Villains series. And yeah, every single one of these has just been amazing. Katie Robert is awesome. And I have the audio for this because I am her patron. And so we got the audio files of all of the Wicked Villains books. And this one, I'm really excited to reread this and listen to the audio when I do. It's going to be awesome. Then read an audiobook, which I know I just said it for that one, but I figured I would do The Takeover. So The Takeover, this is also the book that you guys picked to buddy read with me. It was a landslide. So in my You Vote on my TBR, you got to pick between a contemporary reread and a historical reread. This is the one you picked for contemporary. I may have weighted the odds in my favor just by the fact that you guys know how much I love this, and so many of you will either be rereading this with me or you'll be reading it for the first time. This book is amazing. I'm also reading this one for Read an Older Woman, Younger Man book. Our heroine is 5 years older than the hero. It's not a big difference, but it is to her because our main character, our heroine, she is a widow. And so she has 3 kids, and she meets this guy who's a few years younger than her, and he's really successful, and she feels like she doesn't have anything to offer him, as well as is she replacing her husband to her kids by falling in love with someone else. It is heart-wrenching and beautiful book, and I bought the audio for this one this time because I plan to listen and annotate it, and I'm so excited. I'm so excited. I just freaking love that book so much. Then read A Tortured Hero. For this one, I plan to reread The Earl Takes All. Earl Takes All by Lorraine Heath. This is book 2 in the Hellions of Havisham, and I just love this book so much. Yep, I'm saying it again. I can't help myself. This one is about these twin brothers, and one of them dies while they're on a safari in Africa, or a jungle trip. And he asks his brother to pretend to be him because he has a pregnant wife at home and he doesn't want anything to upset her and make her lose the child. And so it's really heartbreaking and beautiful, and it has this situation where you don't know how it could possibly work out, even though you know there's going to be an HEA in there somewhere. And so our hero, who has replaced his brother, he always did have feelings for his brother's wife, and he's kept them very well hidden, and now he has his brother's wife, but it's in the worst way possible. And so he's definitely very, very tortured. It's a very, very good book. Then read a diverse book. So I got myself in a little bit of trouble because the book that I had picked for a diverse pick, I ended up reading already. So I went through my list of my rereads and I was like, oh, well, I have one that I can use for that. So for the diverse part, I'm actually going to go with a neurodivergent hero, and it's going to be The Madness of Lord Ian Mackenzie. This book is our other buddy read. So this is the historical buddy read you guys picked, and it wasn't even close. This one got 90% of the votes because it's either people who have heard me rave about it, Bree rave about it, Jess rave about it. Pretty much everyone on Romance Booktube who reads historicals has raved about this book. It is amazing. It has a hero who's on the autism spectrum, except they didn't know that back then. They just kind of call it his muddles because sometimes he will have bigger fits or not be able to handle things. He'll have sensory overload. And then he meets Beth, who is this widow who she's planning to remarry. She's planning to marry this one guy, and Ian informs her that he actually has a mistress and he's looking to get her fortune and use it to take care of his mistress. And then in the process of informing her of this, Ian just falls head over heels for her, and it's one of the most beautiful things I've ever seen. This book is so good. So this is going to be the buddy read. If you want to buddy read this with me, check out my Discord, which is always listed down below. And then the last one that I need to hit the last prompt, which is read an age gap. I need to reread Him by L.L. Ash. Now, I did just reread this recently, but I didn't do a full reread of it because I was reading it for the Taboo Book Club when we did age gaps. And I just kind of skimmed it at the time because I hadn't read it that long ago. But now that I'm rereading my favorites and ranking them, I wanted to reread this one fully. But I love this. This is a best friend's dad romance. It's a pretty big age gap. It is awesome. This girl and her friend, they go to stay with her friend's dad for their first semester of college. The friend ends up joining a sorority and moves out of the house. And so her friend is like, you've literally stuck me here living with your dad when we're supposed to be here to save money and live with your dad. And then the dad just like has compassion on her and is like, no, you can stay living with me. Don't worry about it. I'm here to support you. And even though my daughter ditched you, I'm not going to blame it on you. And they have a romance, and it's really, really, really good. So I'm going to reread this. Okay, so that should cover all of my prompts for the readathon. I'm trying to think if there's any other, but I think no, that covers all my prompts for the readathon. Then I still have a lot of books that I'm planning to read. So books that I'm planning to reread. I'm planning to reread A Heart of Blood and Ashes, but I'm also going to buddy read this with Crystal because Crystal said she would read this with me in December. So we are going to get to this one at some point. Then I'm going to reread Mine Till Midnight by Lisa Kleypas. Restless Slumber in preparation for Deadly Dreams. So I'm probably going to try to reread this one pretty soon, like before the readathon starts. This might be a bit more of a November read than a December read because I just want to refresh myself before the third book comes out. Aren't the covers just gorgeous? Oh God, that's what draws a lot of people to this series. Like self-pub books just have some of the best covers. I'm going to be reading Breaking Perfect by Lydia Michaels. This is a menage, an MMF menage, and it's so good. It's so good. This is about a married couple who the husband's ex-boyfriend comes back into their lives, and then they realize that they all want to be together, and it's amazing. I'm rereading Her Perfect by Steffi Wells. This is a student-teacher, not really an age gap. It's only a 4-year gap, and it's also a brother's best friend romance. This is heartbreaking. I'm excited / hesitant to reread it because it is a heavy book, but I just loved it so much. Like the hero in this really gets to me. Poison by Jade West. This is a dark romance with some pretty kinky stuff in it. It has some pretty kinky, like almost gross kind of sex going on, which if anyone's going to push me there, it's going to be Jade West. Like, I read her books and I'm like, why am I so turned on by this? But I am. This is about a heroine who has epilepsy, and she broke up with this guy a few years ago because he wasn't a great dude. He'd like cheated on her, didn't go great. And they were told that their relationship together was very unhealthy. And they're both miserable without each other. And so they reach back out to one another to kind of have a one-night stand together, but then they remember all the things that they love about each other, and it's really hard to just stop. Okay, so those are all the ones I'm planning to reread. Then I have just a couple that aren't on this at all. So first I have some Eva Lee books. As I've said earlier in this video, Zoe Archer is planning to be on our live show, so I wanted to read some more of her books. I've actually read 2 of them already. I started with her beginning books, the Quick Quills or something, which are really good. They're all women writers, and I love it. And so I want to read her London Underground series, and then the first, like, I want to read My Fake Rake, but then I want to read the next book in the Union of the Rakes as well. So I want to get to those. And then because this readathon is only the first half of the month, like I have more time, I'm trying to only reread stuff besides the Eva Lee, but I also want to finally start from Blood and Ash because I was so generously gifted this by my friend Monica, as well as the sequel, and I want to kind of start this story. So I don't know that it will be a huge priority, but I figured I'd just throw it in here as one that like I want to get to this at some point. So there you go. That is all the books I'm planning to read in December, most of them being rereads. Make sure you check out the info about the Romance Takeover Readathon down below. That is starting on November 29th or the 30th. What day does it start? I don't have it written in front of me, but it's on the card anyway. And the kickoff live show will be on my channel. Make sure you tune in. We're going to have themed nights. that build your own bingo board that I talked about, and it's just going to be so much fun. This community in romance is one of the best parts of my life right now during quarantine. The amount of love and support I got from you guys after my surgery, people checking in on me, people we've never met in person, guys. It means so much to me. This year with the romance community has just been everything. I don't know what my sanity would have done without it. So thank you so much for watching this. I put up new videos 3 to 4 to 5 times a week. It just depends. Make sure you check out my socials down below, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.